Hello, everyone. I'm Jeff Simon, and welcome to a very special episode of SocialFlight Live. This show has now been going on for close to 3 years and almost 200 episodes. And our mission is to bring some of the most amazing and inspirational individuals in aviation together to share their personal stories, who they are, how they got to be the people that they currently are, and just share all of that with the general aviation community. And I cannot think of anyone who has had more of a personal impact on me than Treat Williams and the relationship that I formed with him by having him on the show several times. Now, what you may not know is that what goes into these shows are many pre-show meetings and opportunities for me to get to know the guests that come on the show. And in many cases, we form a wonderful bond and become friends over the period of days, weeks, and even years if they come on the show multiple times. And this was absolutely the case with Treat Williams. And so I reached out to Treat's family, who absolutely endorsed taking the recordings of our pre-show meetings and making them available to all of you so that you could get a sense for who Treat Williams really was as an individual and what a wonderful human being he was, and an asset to general aviation. And so there are some edits where personal information has been cut out, but all in all, this is just a straight recording of one of our meetings. This one's going to be the first meeting that we had, and then there are several others that'll be coming out as well. But I hope this is a great opportunity for you to see a little bit more about someone who was so very special to so many. And so with that, I take you to one of our first pre-show meetings with Treat Williams. Boom, you did it.
Thanks, Gil. You know, I got to tell you right away, I dislike you intensely because of that beautiful panel behind you that you get to fly in your basement. How cool. Let's see what we've got here. We have, looks like Garmin.
No, oh, no, sorry. We're gonna buzz you out on that one.
I wonder what that is.
So here's the story. First of all, I don't know, there's never any green screen or anything going on here. Everything you see here is the mic and touch, because we're actually in, this is my living room, believe it or not. And we are building a Mustang here in our living room. So I'm gonna give you a peek at this.
A Mustang airplane or a car?
A P-51 Mustang.
Oh, the somewhat miniaturized version,
Yeah,
or
Titan, 3/4 scale Titan Mustang.
Are you married?
I was at one point.
Anymore?
Second time around, I'm engaged, and she understands this fully.
Okay. Okay. I guess she knows what she's in for.
Oh yeah. So this is a labor of love, I'd say, with my two. I know obviously you've got really close relationship with your kids, and this is my project with my boys. So and that panel is
now.
Where
are the specs for that? I mean, in terms of it being airworthy and that sort of thing. Is there a set of plans from which you are working, or?
It's a kit. Titan Aircraft is the company that makes it.
You know, there's one in the hangar, believe it or not.
Oh, really?
Somebody kind of abandoned. It wasn't flying last year. I belong to an airport, a very small, wonderful grass strip airport. You may have heard of it in New York. And actually, it's a reporting point when I used to fly IFR.
What's the airport?
Oh, where are we?
And where are you based now?
At Rutland.
Oh, okay.
KR Uniform Tango. And where am I? I'm here. Cambridge.
Oh,
Cambridge, VA. So it's it's like a 2,300 grass strip, 2 strips. One of them is not so good because the farmer won't cut the trees at the end of the runway. You know that one.
Oh yeah.
But it's great because I want to teach my son to fly the Cub, and grass is a lot more forgiving of sideways landings than pavement.
Oh yeah.
So I have a small hangar there, but in the larger hangar where I had the plane for a while in the winter, is a a smaller P-51 like yours. I don't know if it's the same company or not. I don't know if they're only ones who do it. But
There's been a few companies that have tried it. It depends. This is a 3/4 scale, but yeah, there's been a few companies out there. I think the Titan may have produced the most kits so far, but we'll see.
I owned a T6 for 16 years and flew a T6, and apparently, when you were transitioning from the 6 into the Mustang, you had to fly the T6 from the back seat, from the rear, in order to get used to the long nose of the Mustang, which gave you absolutely no forward visibility. It was more about taxiing and landing than it was about flying. It was just getting used to.
I've always heard that when transitioning from the T6 to the Mustang made all your landings easier. It was nothing as hard as the T6.
Well, the gear is very, very narrow. I mean, you are a good pilot if you can fly a 6 well. So that taught me, that probably improved my flying skills, tenfold, learning to fly the airplane. So that was a lot of fun.
So cool.
Yeah. Well, when do you think you'll have it up and running, up and flying? I'll be there that day. Thank you very much. Got a lot of tailboat time.
I'm on a rolling 2-year schedule, so I'll let you know. You've got some time for some advance notice in that.
Where will you keep it? At your field?
Yeah, we'll probably keep it at Minuteman at Stowe.
Okay.
That's
so. Oh, okay. Not Stowe, Vermont.
No, 6 Bravo 6. Although I do get up to Rutland, so we're gonna have to connect up there.
Yeah, I've got the Cub up there in a friend's hangar. That I just bought a new fuel tank. It started to leak, and I thought it was just a valve, but it wasn't. It's the tank is just, well, it's only 70 years old. I don't know why it's leaking.
It's amazing how things wear out these days.
God. Yeah, I mean, I can't wait. Actually, I can't wait to have the money to put in the 85 horsepower and redo the fabric and paint it yellow. It's white and red. It's painted like a little aerobatic Cub. It's not painted in the standard Cub colors. I kind of wanted to do the real honest to God yellow, Cub paint job eventually.
It's funny because obviously kids get their own, they're very much their own identities. And my oldest is gone. I'm also an A&P and an IA on the side, and my oldest has kind of gone that more that route, and also the kind of like flying and interested in IFR. My youngest is an old soul who is gotten his tail wheel and is just all he wants to do when we go to something like AirVenture or Oshkosh, those, all he does is go hang out with the guys. He's like, minimum age is like 70. That's who he wants to go sit down, hang out, talk tail wheels. Cubs are his favorite. I mean,
for me, when we do the talk, it's kind of wonderful that in a way, the Cub is there for me when I decide to hang up the medical and just say, what, this is all I'm going to fly. I just want to go and fly twice a week. And,
you have what, an Aztec is your kind of heavier hauler, is that it?
Yeah, it's beautiful. I mean, the panel, I call it 150 mile an hour Gulfstream 5 is really what it is. The panel is a heavy metal panel. And my partner, Charlie, just loves gadgetry as much as I do. So we put everything in, the Garmin 275, the 750, there's a 650 below the 750, and we've got the new TXI, which is the sort of the giant movie screen panel.
Is that the one that I think you sent a video to Barry, who sent it to
Yeah, I did. Yeah, of a landing, I think, or something.
Oh, yeah. When you have time, I'd love to see some, if you have just some pictures to send. We don't do much in terms of pictures on air because we also are transitioning it for podcast, but.
Well, I'll just send it for you personally. So, actually, one of the things I'm actually fascinated by is that when I think back, I was talking to Sullenberger about this at one of our events, how simple aviating in instrument conditions used to be. The workload was minimal. When I was coming down from Vermont back and forth for 20 years to Teterboro in crap weather, and they'd say descend to maintain 4,000, fly heading, 090 vectors for the ILS to 6. You're done. All you had to do was follow orders right down to the runway, basically, once you locked in. And now there's a myriad of choices as to what you can put where. And there's a workload goes, skyrocketing because, do you want Do you want to have it, put it in traffic mode, put the 275 in the traffic mode, and then you have two different screens on your primary flight display, and you have a screen on your Garmin, 750. Where does everything go?
Yeah.
And what are you looking at? And in putting the approach in is different. You have to. It's a more series of factors to put the approach in. If they want to send you to a waypoint out within the approach, they can do that, which they never used to do. So it's interesting that you have more. You have to understand what your computer is capable of and what you want it to do. And that's where I had a big learning curve when we went to the glass cockpit.
Oh, absolutely.
But I'm glad to have it. I mean, it's wonderful to have it. That you have.
You're mentioning, I mean, currency in itself has changed dramatically, because remaining current on steam gauges on traditional instruments is one thing. Remaining current on glass panel and navigators and all the complexity is a whole nother level.
Yeah, and I have to tell you, it was, because I'm not in the airplane for 4 months of the year, I've been behind the 8 ball. This has actually been a great time for me to really. I'm on the computer every day, and luckily they have two flyable options on my laptop that I can use, so that I can fly the airplane. I can fly the Garmin TXI, and I can fly the 750. Actually, I can set up where I am, airspeed and altitude, and fly approaches. So it's a good practice to get to know the equipment.
That's awesome.
But there's nothing like being in the airplane, really.
You mentioned that you're away for 4 months. So what's your schedule generally like?
For the last 5 years, except for 1 year we took off because of COVID, I travel sometime in March to Vancouver Island, to the central Vancouver Island, where we shoot a show for Hallmark, which is on Sunday nights, called Chesapeake Shores.
Yep, I'm aware of that.
The first few years before COVID, I actually called Canada, got myself a Canadian add-on license. You can fly your own airplane in Canada, but you cannot fly a Canadian registered aircraft unless you have the Canadian ticket.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And so I got it, but I
those months you didn't take the Aztec out there.
Well, I know, because I have a partner. So, Charlie and I, if one of us is going to the vineyard, let's say, the other one will fly in there and then go back and have the airplane and go pick them up when it's time. Or if you're not busy or you don't want to use the airplane, the other guy can go. He's as a matter of fact in the Bahamas right now with it. We're wending his way back from Florida. He says he doesn't want to come home. It's too warm and too nice. So I'm out in an airplane for weeks now. So I go out in March. We start shooting. We shoot in blocks of two shows. We do 10. So there's 5 blocks, 5 2-show blocks, which takes us to about this year. It'll take us to about the beginning of July, and then I get to come home and I'm free, and I can either go do other things, which I did this year, or I can just say, you know what, I'm done. I want to take a long break, which is what I'm doing now.
Yeah,
I did
so many projects going on. I mean, you're in a million things.
It's thinning out now. I did 2 episodes of a new show of the guys who did The Wire. Yeah. So I played an older cop in that, and I did one.
On this city, or is that?
Yeah. How'd you know about that? Would you look me up? You naughty boy. And then also I just did one episode with Tom Selleck of I come back and bug him on Blue Bloods occasionally. But aside from that, I wrote a play. I'm working on that. That's basically what I'm doing. So I'm just going to it's really nice to just sit by the fire every day. I can't tell you how easy it is to do nothing. I'm enjoying it.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So
that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to have a blast. We're just going to, this, I think, as I mentioned to you, this is a show that is exactly what's happening right now. I'd like to talk a little bit about your life, your experience of aviation.
Oh no, I was thinking today about stuff I hadn't thought about in so long, like doing crazy stuff, like flying with Art Scholl in the movie Chris Christopherson and I did a movie. They put a little wooden platform. I stood on the landing gear of a Cessna, I think it was a 172, maybe it's a 182, and they wired me into the airplane, attached me with a harness to the airplane, no parachute.
Which movie was that again?
Flashpoint. You can pull up the sequence on YouTube. And I did a midair fight with Art. You know, punching and Art said, "Treat, I can't fly the airplane. You got to stop doing this." You know, I was getting really into it, and we landed with me standing on the gear. I mean, it was bizarre. Thank God he was
stunt man. You just did that.
And then Art and I went up on another show I did with Bob Duvall called Flashpoint, and in that one, I was in a Stearman. And they re-rigged the bin. It was a Stearman used for spraying, and they re-rigged the spray bin with controls for Art. And when the camera was on me, Art would duck down, and I would fly because I can fly. You know, I had my Seneca out there at the time. We were out we were out in Arizona, Tucson. And then when they did the stunt where I beat up the car, that I have a battle with the car, pounding on I lose the wheel in the airplane. Art did all the stuff, and he had a black wig on to look like me. So I did two pictures with Art Scholl.
So wait a minute, one was Flashpoint, what was the other one?
One is called Flashpoint. You can go stunt sequence or flying sequence. And the other was called, I played D.B. Cooper, the first guy to ever, as you well know who he is. And it was called Pursuit of D.B. Cooper. Not really something you need to watch all the way through. Not really.
Oh, come on. There's jewels in everything.
We all have good days and bad days, even in television. I'm proud of everything I did. You did the best you can, so.
That's wonderful.
But I just forgotten about all that kind of goofy stuff I did and things I did that I never would do now. I mean, just extraordinarily. Why I stood on the gear and let him land. I could have broken both legs. I could have been dead,
You did it so that now you can look back and have this conversation.
Well, Art proved how dangerous it is. I mean, he died shooting on Top Gun. So, they never found the plane or Art, unfortunately. And no one knows what happened, but most people think that the cameras in those days were so heavy that it just, when he got it into a spin, he didn't have the same aerodynamics on it was a Pitts, I believe he was using to shoot the point of view of, I think there was F-16s that they were flying. I can't remember what aircraft it was in time. And then, he just said, "I got a problem. I got a big problem." And that was the last they ever heard from him. So yeah, terrible. Great pilot. Wow. Great pilot. Good guy. Nice guy. Very, very humble, very quiet, very nice. But yeah, there's a lot of fun stuff all along the way. 2 catastrophic engine failures. I want to tell you, when we do it, I want to tell you about the time that I was flying at night up to Rhode Island, and my engine started making a terrible sound. I looked down and I had no oil pressure in my right engine, and so I shut it down. Feathered the prop, and I told the tower going into Rhode Island that I said, I'm flying on one engine. I've shut one engine down. He said, "You declaring an emergency?" I said, and I didn't know whether I had to or not. I said, "No, but I tell you this, I'm not going around. I'm going to plant this no matter what." So I'll tell you this again when we do it, but I got it over to, there was oil all over the fuselage. And the first thing they asked me was not, "Are you okay?" It was, "Let me see your license, your medical." And I was like, "Really? Do you know if I'm all right?" So I got it over to a shop, and I called the shop the next day, and I said to the guy, "So why did I lose all my oil pressure?" And the mechanic says, "Well, I don't want to get anybody in trouble." I said, "Well, what does that mean? You want to, what happened?" He said, "Well, your oil cooler, vanes were pierced. It was pierced." And I said, "What pierced it?" He said, "A wrench. Somebody left a wrench in your engine." Oh. So when I got back to Teterboro, I said to the FBO, the head of maintenance and charge of everything, I said, "Listen, I got to tell you, you guys left a wrench during the annual in my engine." He said, "Yeah, well, that's Bobby. He's having marital trouble." I said, "Well, Bobby's marital troubles are going to get me killed, man." Oh, God. I moved the airplane that day. So that was the end of that relationship.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's amazing. That's exactly what you got to be careful about. That's going to be a great story. I'll tell you.
There was nothing you could do on run up. I mean, you couldn't. There's nothing on your checklist that's like find wrench in engine. You couldn't see into the compartment. in the interior guts of the engine, right? I guess
Right.
leaning right up against the oil cooler. You know,
Oh my
those are
God.
very soft too. You know, it's like the back of it. Right? I guess you know you're an AP. The back of an air conditioner, very pliable and easily pierced.
I about a year ago, my son was flying from a place that we don't rent from anymore. That I was there. He went up and flew in the Cessna, and he immediately came back. He's like, something's wrong. I was foot on the floor, right, rudder the whole time, and landed. So I go in, I look in this rental plane. I find the rudder spring is off. I'm like, well, that's strange. It's not broken. It's like, why is that off? And I go and I look in, and jammed in the controls is this maintenance flashlight, down jammed into the controls with, I don't know if you can see it, the cable sawing through.
Oh yeah, I see it.
Sawing straight through it, which had been there for quite a while. I said, I'm going to keep this and wait for the mechanic who's missing a flashlight to start looking for it.
Did anybody ever say, "Where's my flashlight"? No.
No.
You know, there's a story about the extra 300, which killed my aerobatic instructor, Randy Gagne, out in L.A. When I was learning to fly my T6, Randy was my aerobatic guy. He was the go-to aerobatic instructor out of Van Nuys Airport. And he was giving instruction in the extra. They don't know if it was a heart attack or not. He was a superb pilot, so it could have been that he just had a massive heart attack. Nobody knows. But apparently the way the fuselage interior with the wiring and the control wiring goes through a smaller and smaller, it descends back into the tail to something about the size of a quarter. And apparently you're told never to have change in your pockets, because a quarter could fall out of your pocket, slide back there during one of your verticals, and jam your flight controls, which is a possibility. Yeah. It just so happened that a coin could easily jam the control. So it's not unlike that situation. Yeah. With the flashlight. Funny how things that you have to be careful.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. One of the biggest risks we always talk about is maintenance.
I had, it's weird. And they were good. They were I don't know what happened, but I wasn't getting enough power. My Seneca was turbocharged, and my left engine wasn't coming up to power on takeoff. And I kept saying, guys, what is wrong? I'm not getting the same amount of power and thrust as the right engine. And they said, we don't know, Trey, you can't figure it out. And I was like, there's got to be something. We just don't see any problem. So one day I said, I'm just going to do it myself. So I opened the cowl flap, and I got on my back underneath the airplane and examined. And sure enough, there was a 1-inch hole in where the exhaust pipe split. There was a hole in the exhaust pipe. I was, guys, how could you miss this?
You need new mechanics.
I know. Well, that's the same place. I moved it from there. No, actually, it was the second place. You've got to really be on top. I mean, I think the fact that you've got that AP license is a great idea, because you can really, check out the airplane. And
well, it's
better than anybody.
One of the ways to kind of protect yourself a little bit. I'm an A&P and IA. My son's an A&P also, although he's not going into that professionally. Neither am I really professionally. But it just helps you look for things. But I just try to help people as much as I can.
What goes into the P-51? What engine are you going to put in that?
It's actually an auto engine. It's a V8. It's an LM4 V8 engine. Yep. The original P-51 was water cooled. What's that?
Isn't that awfully heavy, the auto engine, to go in the aircraft, or is it not?
It's designed for it. You do have to put some ballast and make sure you're moving things back into the tail. The aircraft's pretty strong, and of course the original P-51 was water cooled, so it's all designed for a water cooled engine.
That's right. That's right. It was Rolls-Royce, wasn't it?
Yeah, Allison and then Rolls-Royce. Yeah.
And the Allison was problematic, as I remember when I read about it.
Yeah, lower power, didn't do as much. It wasn't until the British got their hands on it that it turned into a superstar.
Well, yeah. So yours, what's the horsepower on the engine you put in it?
This one is going to be 300.
Wow. So this is not going to be a very slow mock-up. This is going to be a fast airplane, I assume.
Not crazy. Probably, it maybe 200 knots. The 200 miles an hour, not knots. The the aircraft has is meant to be forgiving. It's a fat wing. It's really meant to be a safe airplane to fly, in the way that Titan has described it. So it's not like a race it or anything
Right,
like
right,
that.
right.
We're just building it to have fun.
Oh, I can't wait to see it. That's so exciting. I'll fly my Cub over when you take it up. Huh?
Absolutely, it'll be a lot of fun, without a doubt. But and normally our main ride is an A36 that I restored over a bunch of years, and that's what we usually
Is that a
do.
V-tail or a straight tail? That's
Straight
a
tail.
Bonanza. Straight
Yes.
tail. Nice. And did you upgrade the panel too for
Yeah,
avionics?
it's been a whole like labor of love for many years, just putting the sweat equity and changing it, and so it's got I'm constantly doing things, whether it's the panel or other things. So it's actually got more to go in the panel. The nice thing
Well, I
about
tell you what, you send me pictures of that, and I'll send you pictures of my stuff.
fair
Be
enough.
careful what you wish for, though, because I will inundate people with
I
photographs
want
and
to see the
movies.
pictures. Oh, I absolutely want to see the pictures. That'd
Yeah,
be
yeah,
fantastic. No
yeah. I
question
got
about
a
it.
bunch
And
of
like
old
I
stuff.
said, I mean, you're up there in Rutland. We'll come for a visit. That'll be great.
Yeah, please. We'll have there's a couple nice places to go have lunch. A friend of mine owns a beautiful place. You should look it up, called Mountaintop. It's a
Oh, okay.
beautiful inn in Rutland, and he owns the inn, and they've got great restaurant, beautiful views. We could have lunch up there. It's a
Awesome.
fantastic place.
And now, does everybody in your family fly with you? What's the story?
Um, Not as much as it used to be every weekend up here. I was flying in weather that you wouldn't believe. I mean, now I look back on it, I'm like, landing in snowstorms and in the Seneca, where you used to think that de-ice meant you could actually fly in ice, which is not the case whatsoever.
Right.
But I didn't fly in ice, but snow never held me back as long as it was colder than icing. There was no ice freezing layer. So it was weekends out of Teterboro up and back and forth to Rutland and the Seneca. And then when I moved out, then I acquired, while I was working in Los Angeles, and I had I'll talk about that. I had an aviation company for 8 years. We did film and television flying with helicopters and aircraft.
What was that company called?
SocialFlight, CINEFLIGHT. And my instructor, when I got my commercial add-on in helicopters, and I decided we'd join the fray of aviation flying. And unfortunately, he died in a helicopter crash. We were doing a music video for Meatloaf, and he hit wires. And I just shut the company down. It was just too devastating to me. And also, I wasn't one of the guys that liked flying on the edge of the envelope. I like being right in the middle of the safety envelope, But anyway, that's where I got I got my commercial helicopter rating out there, and then he flew the T6 up from Paraguay. It was part of the Paraguayan Air Force. And then we rebuilt we rebuilt and repainted the 6, and then when he passed away, the 6, I actually owned the 6, and he got to fly it because he wasn't making a lot of money. I was doing a series with Shelley Long. And when he passed away, we moved back east, and I brought the 6 back. So it was the 6 and the Seneca. And then when I was doing my show Everwood out in Park City, Utah, we were at Heber Airport. I called my financial guy and said, I'm going to buy a Piper, one of the larger Pipers. And he said, how large? And I said, well, it seats 9. And he said, sell the 6 and you can get the bigger Piper, So I had 9. I had a
Navajo.
I had a Navajo Chieftain for about 10 years, which I adored, and rebuilt that. And that was really, really fun to have. And then ultimately, after the Navajo, I came back east. We came back east, and I sold the Navajo. I had no airplane, and I was invited to join this flying club. And by attrition, people left the club, and there were only 2 of us left. And we said to the rest of the guys in the club, sell us the Cub for $1, and we will get it back up to speed, and you guys can fly it for $80 an hour, just like the club. But nobody did, so we ended up with a $1 Cub that we took. It cost $7,000 to get it back up to speed, and then my partner unfortunately passed away, and so that the Cub became mine.
Wow.
And then I partnered with Charlie on the Aztec, and so I think the Cub will be my last plane. But the usage of the airplane, it's a long-winded answer. Basically, I would fly the dogs back. The family really liked the airlines. They weren't up for 10 hours in the airplane, you know. And I had it tricked out with movie screens, and they just would prefer to, you know, sit in the back with a nice big comfy seat. So I would do I'd bring all the dogs and extra stuff back from Park City when we get home for summer, and we used it for vacations and down to Florida. And last year, Pam and I took the Aztec down to Charleston, South Carolina for a vacation. But basically, since I have a partner on it now, it doesn't come with me, and there's nowhere to go in Canada with COVID too. Is where do you go? You know that you can go. It's been a really strange 3 years in aviation.
Now
what I do is I practice. I do nothing.
The Cape Islands, though. I mean, that's such a wonderful place. Of course, do you go there?
No, I have friends who have all their money there, but no, I don't. We had property in the Bahamas. We would go to the Bahamas every year to Eleuthera, and I'd fly the Seneca down there, and that was a fun flight. You know, we'd stop in South Carolina and then one night in Florida, and then hop over to the Bahamas the next morning and spend a week there. And that was a lot of fun. But basically, you know, I would go back and forth when I had the Seneca, and even when I got married, I would always commute in the Seneca out to California, and I kept the plane at Santa Monica. I bought all my Pipers from Ken Kruger in Santa Monica. So that was my home base, and that's closing up next year. You know, it's unfortunate. It's very sad. It's where the DC-3 was built. Amazing. Very sad.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a show in itself.
Why do people move next to airports and then try to close them? I've never understood.
Realtors. Because realtors are the first ones that show people a new neighborhood going up next to an airport, and then they go, "Don't worry about that. The airport's going to be closing."
Yeah, we're closing
long before it's closing.
Are you safe at your field?
Comes and goes.
What'd you say? 6B6 is it?
Yes.
Okay. Do people want it out of there, or did they hate the noise?
Oh,
really?
Yeah. Well, we've lost so many. I think on average, one airport a year has been lost in Massachusetts, and there's one that's almost walking distance, probably from my house, a long walk, that just closed. Also, it was a short strip, and it just seems to be. And they did that to turn it into like a business park, and nothing moved in. So now it's
no. There's an airport over in New York that I go and I'll drive up there. There's no sign to it. They don't even want you to know it's there, and you drive up this drive, and there's the tarmac, and there's grass and weeds growing into it. It's like visiting. It's a very famous picture of Jimmy Stewart standing on the runway where he flew the B, I think it was B-17s, and he's standing there. There's all kinds of bushes and grass growing up to the runway. He went back to visit, like 1960s.
Oh, and wow.
They shut everything down. The fields, all the small fields. That's why I really love Cambridge so much, because there's so little of that left. It's really a bunch of guys in their 70s who fly ragwing tail draggers. It's a lovely, lovely place.
I'm gonna have to go check that out if I'm ever.
Oh yeah, just fly in sometime.
I don't think I'll be able to get the Bonanza. How big a strip do you say?
I think you might be able to. I can't remember. Who cares what the airstrip is? You got a Cub, memorize the length of it.
You don't have to worry about that at all.
No, let me see what it is. Let me see. Chapin Field, it's called, and best runway not available. Oh, give me a break. Come on, tell me what's the runway. There we go. Oh, we go. 2,100 feet, 2,129 feet.
So I wouldn't think twice about that if it were paved, but it depends on.
Well, just land slow.
Exactly. I'll get at it. You know what? You can land anywhere once. That's what I tell the kids.
Soft field landing. It's just actually.
Right. I'm not worried about getting in. It's a question of how soft it is for getting out.
I think you'd be fine. What's nice about it is
trees right at the end or not.
Well, there's a road and no trees, so you can approach it. You can be, flatlining it right into the.
Oh, that's not okay. Now I'm back in.
There's also, to be honest, there's a tree line at the end of the runway, but to the left, if you got into trouble, you wouldn't have to try and do a 180 back and stall yourself to death. You could actually just bank it over and put it in this very, very large cornfield, which is to the left of the runway. So, and the runway is westerly, so if there's any breeze, you know, don't take off at noon in August. That's it.
With high humidity and all the fun and games that go along
You know,
with
I'm
that.
on my 50th year of flying this year. 50 years.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
I soloed in Connecticut when I was 17 years old, the year I graduated from Kent School, at a little airfield called Candlelight Farms, which was on Candlewood Lake, grass strip.
Oh, I grew up near Candlewood.
In a Super Cub. Did you ever know there was a strip there at the north end?
I never knew there was a strip there.
There is a strip there.
Oh, it's a gorgeous lake. Oh my
Still
God.
there. Candlelight Farms. Now it's private, I think. In my football coach's Super Cub, and I soloed in June of 1969. So go figure.
That's
and
fantastic.
then I didn't get in an airplane, you know, as a pilot for 4 years. So like when college, I started making money, and then I started to fly again in 70. I guess it was, I got my license in 1973. That was when I got my private. And then I just started getting like.
We're going to have to have you on more than one show, because this is going to keep going. I love this.
Well, you know, you don't have that combination of doing goofy stuff like doing stunts in airplanes. There's a DC-3 where Nick Nolte threw me out of a DC-3 that's out in LA. That's still flying. He threw me to my death.
What movie was that one?
That was called Mulholland Falls.
Oh, okay. Yep.
And he threw me to my. I jumped out of the back of a 727 when I was it was a fake 727, and then they let me fly it. The guys took me up. It was the airplane for at the time the baseball team from California. What's the city south of LA? San Diego Padres. It was their 727. So I got right seat time in a 727. That was fun.
That's awesome.
So I did the jump out of that. Yeah, but there's been a lot of flying stuff interesting during all the movies, you know. A lot of fun.
That's fantastic.
And my company actually did the flying for, or at least the guy who was the aviation guy used my company, SocialFlight, to do all the flying for Con Air, the movie Con Air.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of fun stuff. It's been a good ride. It's been a fun ride, I tell you. A lot of fun.
It's still going on. You got to convince Hallmark to start putting some planes in some of these things.
They did.
Oh, really?
Oh, listen, season 1, believe it or not, my airplane was a Navajo Chieftain. And we had a sequence where I landed the airplane with my daughter, and I taxied the airplane up to a spot. They filmed it. They filmed me without anybody in the right seat. So it was great. You know, they let me have the airplane. And we did a takeoff, and I said, you know, just get it up to speed like you're going to take off. And it took all of my willpower not to rotate and keep on flying. But if I had, I would have gotten a lot of trouble.
Which episode was this?
First, I don't know which episode, first season. But there was a company that was flying nothing but Navajos back and forth to the mainland, you know. And this past season, this is interesting. I don't know where they're going to take me with it. This past season, apparently I owned a Seneca, and I got into trouble. I had to write a believable pilot-friendly version of why I had to crash the airplane on an island off the coast, which is nigh on impossible. If you're an instrument pilot, why would you put it down on an island? So I came up with all this. It's in the second to last episode this past season, and I get banged up pretty badly. I break my arm and get cut up badly, so I start taking OxyContin, and I become addicted to OxyContin.
Oh gosh.
So my addiction continues as we start shooting. Apparently I talked to the writer last night. I said, am I gonna get sober? He said, oh, yeah, you'll clean you up by halfway through. You'll be fine.
Well, if you need to check any facts on that, Heidi, my fiance, is addiction medicine doctor. So that's all she does is deal with that addiction. So don't.
I think I don't want to go anywhere near any of that stuff. It scares me to death. But
don't write some script there where like however you got off with some kind of absurd. Don't do the medicine equivalent of like whatever aviation. When we see something, we go, oh no, 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 no.
Well, you know, I wrote what I thought was believable enough. I wrote that this has happened in the Aztec once, and we got it fixed, that I lost the entire panel. And because it was a short trip to drop the ashes of a guy that I knew, I didn't take any of my iPads or anything else. So I had no panel. So I couldn't, and a fog bank rolled in unexpectedly, and I was off the coast. There's a fog bank. So all I had was a compass, and I had no way of getting to any other airport. And I didn't know how far inland the fog went. So I decided the safe bet was to put it down on an island, which had lots of rocks and trees and no
That's
runway.
pretty believable. I like
think
that.
so. I think so. And I said, the landing set off my ELT. Helicopters were there within half an hour, and they pulled me out. And I thought it was tough because, they said, don't get too detailed on this, because the audience doesn't really care. Only the pilots that you care about care that you don't say something stupid. I love the movies where the guys in the movies that are flying an airplane and they're landing and they're like 400 feet, 300 feet. They're looking out the window. They're not looking at the gauges, just flying like driving a car.
Well, I think what you wrote's pretty credible. That works.
I don't know. You'll see. You can watch it. You can see it. You can pull it up. But I thought it is credible enough. It's actually kind of funny the way I told the story to my family, because I'm somewhat embarrassed that the great Mick O'Brien would crash his own airplane. Obviously they don't want me to fly.
Intentionally, due to weather. Come on.
Yeah. So anyway, that's where it stands. And we had to go and make a perfectly fine Seneca look like it had been, had a very bad landing. And I don't think that worked as well, but at least it looked like it'd been damaged pretty badly.
Now I'm dying to see this.
Oh, well, it's not that exciting. But anyway, so I am a pilot in the show, and every once in a while, I would do things like bring my headset into a scene just to remind the audience that I still flew, because it's very expensive to do flying sequences. So I'd have an iPad and a headset. Yeah, I just been out on the plane. Boy, I was tough getting back from New York.
What headset did you go dragging in there? Whose headset? Come on.
Oh, I took two Dave Clark's with me because I joined a flying club out there. They had a 172 that I could stay current and just go knock around the island, So that's why I got my Canadian license, so I could fly something.
I'm surprised you didn't have one of these guys like Lightspeed or Bose going and knocking on your door to take their headset with you.
Well, there are guys that want me to, because I don't think these guys are all weekend pilots, and I'm an instructor, instrument rated, blah blah blah. So they would always say, "Would you come up? We do some approaches. Would you be my safety pilot and be my pretend controller and put me through the works?" And I'd say, "Sure, I can log the time. Let me have a couple landings, and I'll do that for you." So I brought the Dave Clark's just for that, but we don't use Dave Clark's anymore. I'm going to send you some fun little things from my phone. A little bit of cub flying in the fall, some nice leaf change. Are you flying at all? The weather's been so shitty up here.
I flew yesterday.
You did?
But not today.
When Pam and I went, it was so hard. We had masks on. Luckily, all the restaurants are on roofs of buildings. That's why we went to Charleston, because the only place we go during COVID where we could go out every night to dinner, which was what we wanted to do. If you don't mind.
I'll help you with that. I'll help you with the oxygen.
I'll do as many of these as you like until I get uninteresting to your audience.
Perfect.
And now you're going to be inundated with all kinds of fun stuff from my aviating.
That's awesome.
Stop, Street.
It doesn't have to just be aviating. If you have any pictures from when you were combining aviating with the
I can tell you,
stuff, that would be awesome.
And I found those sequences. You can find Treat Williams' fight scene, Bob Duvall, or D.B. Cooper. You can go to YouTube and go aviation aerial fight in Flashpoint. Some of it comes up. I'm gonna do it.
I just wanted to see if you had any of your personal pictures or something from it.
I do, in a box. I have stuff with Bob Duvall and I, on set, and pictures of me with art. But
by the way, Barry Schiff is channeling us right now, because he just pinged me and sent me the article he wrote on you back in February of 2011.
We went up in the Chieftain. We flew up for lunch.
That's awesome.
I've always loved his writing. He writes beautifully.
Isn't he great? Yes, he's a very, very close friend. He's wonderful.
He's a good man.
He and Brian.
He said to me one day, he said, so, he said, I'd like to meet you. Let's have lunch. We met at Santa Monica. He said, so I understand you landed your Seneca gear up here. And I said, no. A guy that I let fly it landed gear up here. I never landed it gear up. I said to my friend, I said, are you here? He was there to pick me up. And he said, yeah, I'm on the runway. And I said, okay, I'll be right there. He said, no, I'm on the runway. I'm stuck on the runway. The gear collapsed. And he promised me that he had the gear down, but they told me it was physically impossible. Once that gear's down and locked, it's not going to collapse. So he probably forgot to bring the gear down.
Well, isn't every pilot's gear up landing followed by one quick move that moves the gear lever switch down?
Yeah, belatedly.
Isn't that on the checklist?
Chris Reeve did it and tried to keep it a secret. I know Chris did. He was a good friend of mine. He landed gear up at Teterboro. So in a Bonanza. No, it wasn't a Bonanza. It was the twin engine Beech, Baron. But we've all done stupid things now and again. I have, that's for sure.
I've done my share.
Yeah. All right, I'll send you some stuff. When are we doing this?
So much.
For sure. When are we doing this?
7:40 p.m. on Tuesday night.
We have to talk for 20 minutes before we start the thing? What are we going to say to each
No,
other?
it's 20 minutes of me going, hey, I'm looking at your crotch. Move it back up higher. Get this thing on.
Oh, I'll be the Jeffrey Toobin of aviators. Is that what's going to happen? Poor man. I'm surprised he's back on the air. The lucky guy. Holy mackerel. Okay. Let me send this stuff to you. Some stuff. You'll get a kick out of it, I think.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Sure.
I will see
And
you next week.
Tuesday, is it? I've got it written up, but I just forgot it.
Tuesday, we'll get on at 7:40 p.m. We go live at 8.
Okay. Very good. See you then.
Take care, Tate. See ya. Bye. Bye. And so that was the first meeting on camera that I ever had with Treat Williams. And as you can see, he is just one of the most wonderful individuals you can imagine and will be truly, truly missed. In the future, we will be releasing a few more of these meetings that we had over the past years as he came on the show multiple times. And so with that, I'd just like to thank all of you for everything that you do for General Aviation as well, and wish you all blue skies.